So if you haven't seen some of my videos that I've been posting, I've been talking about Nate Diaz and the boxing match against Jake Paul. And I've kind of been talking about Nate Diaz and his boxing and all this and that. In today's video, I am going to highlight something that I do think Nate, hopefully, he's going to be careful of in his upcoming boxing match against Jake Paul on August 5th in Dallas. So like, subscribe, help your boy out. Appreciate you all. All right, so I'm going to throw up some still images as we go here. So one thing that you have to note about Nate Diaz is Nate has always kind of had this boxing heavy approach, right? We all know that. And he's a slow starter, and he kind of likes to – he doesn't really throw any combinations, at least in the first round. He sticks to basically straight punches and likes to pretty much just jab the whole first round almost. Okay, he will throw in maybe a slap hook here and there, maybe fire a left hand off behind the jab. But I'm going to show you something that I noticed that I'm glad Jake Paul's not a southpaw, okay? Because this is something that Leon Edwards was able to do, but specifically Conor McGregor in 2 of their meetings, because they fought twice, that was landing every single time almost for Conor McGregor, and that is this. So this right here is Conor McGregor countering with the left hand off of Nate Diaz's jab. All right, so here I'll show you another angle. There's the jab to the body, boom, coming right over the top with the left hand. Now, that poses a little bit of a concern for me. Obviously, one, well, Jake Paul is not a southpaw, but I'm going to show you something else as we move along in this video that I am going to highlight that I can take from when Jorge Masvidal fought Nate Diaz. Now, again, it's MMA. It's different. You're worrying about different, kicks, elbows, knees, all of that, clinching, elbows getting kneed, whatever, and, in tight. So it's a little bit different, obviously. It's boxing. It's going to be 10 rounds. It's a different format. You're only worrying about punches. So, again, it's a little bit different. What I expect in this fight is I do think that Jake Paul is going to take the early rounds. I think Jake Paul will probably win the first 2 to 3 rounds. It's a 10-round bout now, so I think he's definitely going to win the first few rounds because I think Nate is going to be cautious. I think 2 things. One, I do think Jake Paul will get tired towards the middle to later rounds for sure. The question is, the Nate that I expect Nate to come in really good condition. And if he does come in good condition, he's definitely going to have the cardio advantage like I think we kind of all expect. The problem is, I think that, Nate's kind of known for kind of giving away those early rounds at times. He's a slow starter, but as I mentioned, they're getting countered off of the jab. I'm going to show you a few shots here from Jorge Masvidal. So this is Masvidal getting the jab going. He did kind of change the jab to a left hook. He was able to tag Nate with that a little bit. But this right here, this overhand right down the middle that hurt Nate really bad. All right, so outside of that hard body kick that Masvidal landed early, well, he elbowed Nate up against the fence early in the first round when the fight kind of was just getting going. And then on the way down, he threw a really good kick that kind of hit Nate in the chest, head area. That right hand right there was the second nastiest thing that he took in that fight in terms of damage, was that right hand. And it was an overhand right down the middle. If I'm Jake Paul's team, I'm watching that and I'm seeing, hey, if we can kind of time him here, slip outside the jab and throw that right hand, we might be able to catch Nate here. So if Nate, he just can't throw out a lazy jab, right? So with Nate, a lot of the time he's trying to get the feel. He's kind of just pawing out the jab. If he does that against Jake, I do think Jake is going to try to counter with a heavy overhand right, which is definitely his best weapon. And that's how he's been putting people out. So what I will say is this: Anderson Silva gave Jake Paul a lot of problems when they boxed. I thought Jake Paul was losing up until he dropped Anderson in, I think it was the second to last round of the bout. So with that being said, I think if Nate is able to stay patient, stay sharp, stay switched on early on, and when he fires out the jab, don't just lazily throw it out there, And again, he's the fighter. I'm not. It's easier said than done. I'm just saying, looking at it from a technical standpoint, looking at the film and seeing what I saw, if someone was saying, hey, what was going on against McGregor and Masvidal and Edwards that Nate was getting caught with? It's this right here. He has a good jab. It's just sometimes it's almost like he's kind of half committing on the jab and he's kind of throwing it to, he tries to throw it to the body. He'll lean down and throw it. Where the problem with that is against an orthodox fighter, that's right in the lane of a right hand. So when you're going southpaw and orthodox, the rear hand now becomes a little bit more dangerous, which is also good for Nate because that left hand is going to be there for Nate. I just worry with that overhand right that Jake Paul is able to throw. I could see that potentially landing. I just think that if Nate, does what Nate does, but just fires out that jab stiffly and quickly, he's going to be fine and he'll be able to wear Jake Paul down. I just don't want to see him kind of throwing out those half-committed jabs that he was throwing against McGregor and Edwards because he was getting countered with a left hand off of that almost every time, which I'm sure Leon Edwards saw that McGregor did that in both fights with McGregor and Diaz. That's how McGregor was able to hurt him every single time. That pullback left hand off of Nate Diaz's jab. That's really where Nate kind of takes a lot of the punishment against these strikers is off of his jab. So with that, all that being said, again, this is different. It's a boxing match. The distance control, everything changes with a boxing match. It's almost like hockey and lacrosse. With lacrosse and hockey, you have a stick, but, it's kind of the same thing. You have a goalie, a defense. You kind of have, you got some offensive players, midfield, whatever. But yet it's still so different. You're on skates. That's how boxing and MMA are. Very different. You're worried about different things in each sport. And then the distance control, the timing, the way things are, you're worried about this. You're worried about that. You don't have to worry about those things. You're only locked in on the hands. So I think if Nate Diaz can stay switched on, stay sharp, be patient in the early rounds, don't put himself in harm's way early on when Jake's going to have all that pop in that right hand, I think Nate will be fine, and he'll be able to take this into the deeper waters where Jake will start to get tired. Nate will start to really let those combinations go, put Jake up against the ropes, back him into the corner, cut the ring off, and be able to either get some sort of TKO stoppage where Jake Paul gets tired and he's able to just kind of lay it on him, or maybe he does land a clean shot through that does rattle Jake, which we haven't really seen yet. So what do you all think? Like, subscribe, drop your predictions below. I'll obviously do some more stuff the closer we get to the fight. This is just kind of some early things I noticed looking back at some of the tape on how Nate was getting caught in some of these fights. Again, Leon, McGregor, both southpaw. Jake Paul's an orthodox fighter. That's why I put some of those Masvidal clips in there. So we'll see. What do you all think? Appreciate you all. Like, subscribe. See you in the next one.